Yo, so in this video, you're gonna be seeing an interview that I had with Wesley about how they grew their agency from zero to $60,000 a month. We did our first interview with Wesley exactly a year ago when they hit 10K a month, and now they're doing $60,000 a month in like monthly recurring revenue. And yeah, it ended up turning out like super sick. We focused a lot on like just the mindset and all these different tactical things and strategical things when growing the business, hiring, building operations, and all these things. So it turned out super well. I quickly just wanted to first of all say that the audio quality and video quality aren't as good as usually because I was having some issues with my setup. So I was just recording on my fucking like laptop webcam. So sorry about that. And second of all, I just wanted to overview this like really cool message that Wesley sent a few days before we recorded this interview. So here he mentioned like $6,000 in retainers, 87 total discovery calls, 22 new customers, crazy client results, and also like cool things that they implemented in their team. And here's like their Stripe and cold email campaigns, etc. And one like really cool thing is if we go like a few days later, yesterday he posted end of the week win +4 new clients this week on retainers, 9,600 MRR. So yeah, the guys are doing like 70K a month, and we've been able to work with them for a long time now. So I'm really excited for you to see the interview. They have some really good source to share. And yeah, we talk a lot about how everything looks like. So I'll see you there. Let's continue in the video. Yo, welcome everyone. This is absolutely fantastic call or fantastic video. Today we have like a really exciting interview coming up. We have Wesley here from SciMate. And the cool thing about it is Wesley has been here exactly a year ago.
Yeah.
When their agency or when his agency back in the day hit 10K a month, and now they've grown a lot. They've learned a bunch of crazy stuff, and they've been doing some amazing stuff. So thanks, Wesley, for being here. How are you doing, man?
Yeah, I mean, best day of my life. Cannot complain. It's Friday's Eve, get the ball rolling and almost there, And
Fucking
another
sick.
day, another dollar. That's what they say.
That's super nice. That's super nice. So just to kick everything off, do you want to do like a quick breakdown of what kind of a business you run for the people who haven't
Yeah,
seen? And maybe there's probably been some changes over the last year in their business as well.
yeah, of course. So yeah, like Levi said, I've been in AV for a while. I think we started like a lead gen sort of like cold email outreach agency before like I think like 2023, like early of it, didn't know what I was doing. So, I joined AV and then exactly 1 years ago, hit our first 10K month. But yeah, in a nutshell, since then we just kind of like defined the process of like building out a team around it, getting really good results and getting good tractions, just doing cold email. And now we're just focused primarily on like the tech sectors. So software, SaaS, and things like that. So yeah, we've been going around working with like big VC firms like YC, Techstars, and first round just to help their portfolio companies grow using cold outreach. Yeah, here we are 1 year later, back in here, excited to just share everything I've learned, whether it's cold outreach or just like business in general, whatever you got.
That's super fire. So obviously, we've talked about this a lot as well when it comes to niches and like finding your own niche, finding your own spot in the market. Was this your original vision when starting to build your agency that you're going to be working with these kind of companies, or was it something that just happened over time and this is where you just ended up feeling comfortable?
Yeah, of course, of course. I mean, niche is very important because well, for some background, my co-founder and we were both software engineers. So it was kind of no-brainer for us to like, hey, let's go help all these software companies because they speak our language. Now we also did try out different like niche, sort of like, I don't know, like selling toilet paper to like, I don't know, like local business or something like that, got good result, but we just realized that we want to focus on the sector where we've been building out this credibility, versus going like random areas. And we want to position ourselves as like the top agency in that space. So it's just
Mhm.
really easier to narrow down one versus like, hey, we're the best at everything, which is like harder to believe. So
Yeah.
that was like our mindset around it. Um, Now, of course, nowadays we are trying to build out like different what we call like departments within our agency to help out like other niche as well. But our primary focus is still like 80% like software.
Mm.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. And obviously, last year when we did this interview for the first time, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not completely correct, you were still working alone, right?
I worked with Enoch already.
Yeah.
We were more of like consultants. So like I had my own project. He had his own projects, like we didn't bring in a lot of customer at once. So it was kind of like, hey, what do you think about this? Kind of like back and forth,
Mhm.
sharing new ideas. But since then, yeah, we kind of consulted and we were like, like, we just can't be doing the same thing together. So let's figure something out. Yeah.
100%. Was that like a tactical decision that you already had in mind that you want to run the business with someone else, you want to be partnered up with someone else, or was that also something that just end up making sense in the moment?
I think we knew that at some point we will transition into like a more defined role, but I think at that time it felt more needed to be doing things separately because if we want to get good result for customer, we want to scale and actually like we understand that as we scale, like the service or like any company, like software service company, when they scale, they have that like quality issues, right?
Mhm.
For us to kind of make sure that we don't have that as we scale,
Mhm.
because we still want to like do a solid job and not just like, hey, send like a shitload of like spam emails or whatever, right? We want to make sure that we understand everything in and out. So felt like it was really needed. And we knew that like we had to do that for like a period of time first before we can transition into like coaching a team that can do it for our customers. Yeah.
Mhm. 100%. Yeah, I
Yeah.
get that. That's super solid. So obviously, before getting in anywhere deeper, I think it's pretty good to go over. You guys had a massive monster January, you know? You had a crazy, crazy good January. I was just writing down some of the like bullet points. You
Yeah.
shared all the highlights from the month. You wanna go over a little bit what you did in January, what you achieved, what kind of benchmarks you hit there.
Yeah. January we hit 60K month. A little bummed out because we were really trying to push closer to like 70K. And it's funny enough, like right now, like I think it's Thursday. I think this is right now it's the sixth day into February, and we just signed on like five new customers. So most of them was like, "Hey, let's do it," but they kind of delayed the payment for like 1 or 2 days. So I was like,
Mhm.
"Damn it!" But it's just like a hyper trophy that we just kind of like, "Yeah, we did it," But
Yeah.
yeah, we hit 60K. This month we're like on track to be somewhere around like 75, closer to 80, things like that. We want to kind of like do some hiring a little bit, focus on that before we scale up even further. So yeah, we were at 60 in January, and this month we're on target to be at around like 80K.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy. What was your revenue in the month of December or in the month of November? Was this like a massive jump? Because at least looking at your
Oh
like
yeah.
sales call numbers,
Yeah.
I think you guys went like super hard for the month of January.
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned that because I think this time last year I was talking to you and I was just so excited, I was like, I hit my first 10K. I'm ready to scale. I'm ready to bring new in customer. And I think you were just basically saying like, look, buddy, I'll be honest with you, like, don't do that. I can spend an hour explaining why, but watch this video, right? And I watched the video, and to be fair, I did not really like understand all of it. I think
Mhm.
all I kind of understood was like, all right, like Levi know what he's talking about. Let's just, like I pay him, to like coach me, so might as well listen to what he got to say, right? I think now I understood, but it's like rambling for a little bit, but let's see, in September, we hit 35K,
Mm,
right? And I think we were like really overwhelmed with the workload, right? And the
mm,
staff was just like not performing. Like we didn't know how to hire the right talent to do all kind of stuff. So we spent basically like 3 months just to put our heads down, really study on like how to hire the right people, how to assess the right talents, right? How to build a good team culture. And as I was just mentioning earlier, like how to essentially make sure that the quality of our service actually deliver result for our
mm,
customers, right? So we want to do all of that for our back end first before we start hiring, before we start scaling. So September, we were 35K. I think it was constantly at 35, 35, 35. And then November, we get a few churn. So we dip down to like, I think 30. And then December was at like 25.
mm.
But we didn't care much
Ah,
about the revenue because
yeah.
we had no intention on like bringing on new customer, if that makes
Mm,
sense.
yeah.
So around beginning of December, we found out that our fulfillment system is good. We know that our process is delivering like literally hundreds of like meeting per month. So we were like, all right, let's hire a new customer. And in January, we just signed a tons and just hand it off to your team, and they're doing such an amazing job. And now they're
Mm.
still delivering like without us like having to involve a lot into the fulfillment process.
That's fucking sick. That's fucking
Yeah.
sick. And I think you mentioned you had like 87 discovery calls in the month of January. Were you the person taking the calls, or do you have someone taking them?
No, I am taking the call still. Yeah,
Yeah.
we how many we have made CRM right here. We have 85 discovery calls in the month of January. Yeah.
Damn.
Um, I still wanted to do sales because at the end of the day, even though we're not heavily involved in the fulfillment process, I am still what we call like a head of strategy inside our
Hmm.
agency. So I'm basically like the brain behind the scene of all these campaigns, right? So
Yeah.
customer come in, I still like coach my team. We should do this, we should do that, and they just execute,
Mm.
right? So with that said, I want to have like a genuine conversation with all my customer coming in to begin with, right? I want to understand what they're looking for, what do they need, and how can we get them to what they're looking for, right? So I want to have that conversation with them. So long story short, still doing all the sales call, still coaching my team on how to do this result, and they just execute.
Yeah. And I think that's smart because you also keep a good pulse on the market in terms of what people are looking for, what kind of
Exactly.
experience people have, objections, all these kind of things.
Yeah.
And yeah, and as long as you're a good closer as well, or as long as you're good at what you do, like um, it's still like a really high revenue per hour task
Yeah.
to be doing, you know?
Yeah.
Probably like the highest one you can do, so makes sense for you to be doing it still.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. I don't know if I can consider myself like a good closer. Like I don't have any like sell like choo but I think like one thing that I get a lot of these sales call that the reason why I'm closing a lot of deals is because people were saying how like I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Right. I don't want to bring somebody else in, at least without the proper training and just like, hey,
yeah,
let me close that deal. Right. I want to be able to like actually help the customer, if that makes
yeah,
sense. Yeah.
100%.
So down the road, I might hire a closer, but I gotta make sure that like I gotta train them exactly how I'm
Yeah,
doing it.
yeah, 100%. And I think one thing that is like really interesting, you also mentioned this in your message, and I think this is like really cool. And I think a lot of people, not just in the agency space, but when they run like a quote unquote online business, they miss a mark on this like really hard. And it's also been like a really hard learning experience for me over
Yeah.
the years is like the way you run your team. You are like, you understood the importance of team culture, people being happy, it being like a good place to work. You've
Yeah.
implemented paid holidays and all these things, promoting people to senior roles. How do you look at like the hiring and training and just team management leadership? Like, how do you, what's your like
Mm.
strategy there, or what are you doing there to make it work?
Mm. Okay, fair enough. So I think two things I want to touch point. One is how we hire, and one is how we coach.
Mm,
So how we hire is essentially we have that startup mindset where like high, slow, fire fast,
mm,
right? So to give you some context, we understand that every employees when they join, there's different checkpoints, right? So our checkpoints is essentially 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, and 3 months.
Mhm.
2 weeks is the time period where we know for a fact that they should be able to perform their job well,
Mhm.
right? 1 month mean they are very excited. They still just joined the company. Things are still brand new. They're very motivated to do things, right? So we want to see people to see that like constant growth.
Mhm.
2 months is like when they kind of like settling in a little bit, but they still have a lot of things that are looking to learn. So they're not as excited, but they're still looking to learn. And 3 months is when the true color shows.
Yeah.
This is when they start becoming lazy, right? But the super talents is essentially the one who can actually start thinking for themselves. So you can
Mhm.
start like actually like strategize things without like having us providing much input, right? So we know like the all these checkpoints. So when it comes to like fire fast, we look for like the 2 week marks and then the 3 months mark. Like once they pass that 3 months, that's like, all right, these guys are key players in our team. We need to do whatever it takes to like make them stay, right? So that's how we go about hiring. Now, when it comes to coaching, it's a so the agency space is like a really, really like I don't know how to word it, but like it's a really like messed up game that you're playing. Basically, the best way to find talents is go out there, look at other agency, poach the company employees,
Yeah.
and hire them. That's how you like if you early, you don't believe me, just wait until like later and you're gonna start getting poached by bigger agency. You're gonna be like, damn, this game sucks, right? So we know for a fact that there's no way we'll be able to compete with like software companies or like bigger agencies, right? So that say, if we cannot compete with pay and stuff like that, the only thing we could compete on is the culture, like the growth aspect of the employee. Like we need to make sure that as we grow, we want to make sure that they grow along with us, right?
Mhm.
Like there's no point of making like $1 million when your employee is making like $3 an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, so we want to make sure that if we do well, they get a bonus for that too. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that like I would rather get like 10% of like the profit and share everything else, everyone else, but
Yeah.
they would help me bring that company to make sure that the big revenue is like bigger and bigger each day.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. So yeah, long story short, we care a lot about employee growth and things like that. We don't we don't look at anyone as like VA, even though we do hire folks from the Philippines to begin with. And as we go,
Mhm.
we want to make sure that they have like a good career path, kind of transition that from somebody who's like an assistant to like an actual
Mhm.
like sales role, right? Which
Yeah.
which they did have experience of in the past too, but we want to kind of like define that clear path for every single one in the company.
Mhm. That's that's really dope, and I think that's also it shows like the power of it. Obviously, right now
Yeah,
you're delivering amazing results. You have like a really solid team, really good backend, and obviously none of these things probably would be possible without that mindset.
exactly.
Um, in terms of other things, you went from like 20,000 MRR to 60. You had this like big 3x in like really
Yeah.
short time frame, and obviously you spent a lot of time figuring out the team, the backend, the systems, everything. But was there any other changes you made like in the business or just
Mm.
in your own approach, maybe mentally, when going
Mm.
for like high, fast growth like this? What was like the thing that you changed to make this happen?
Um, Great questions. I don't think there was necessarily like a change that made
Mhm.
this happen. I think my co-founder and I, like, thankfully, like we were like always on the same page, right? And we were basically like a partner in a way, right? Like we have like the same vision, same goal, and we always like trying to support each other. So the number one thing that I'm very happy that he's on page with me is the fact that we wanted to invest in like the long run,
Mhm.
right? And we know everybody's situation is different, right? So I know there's a lot of like agency owner out there and they're trying to get to like that 20 and 30K mark. And every time they get like 5K, they pocket like 90% of it. Like they
Yeah.
pocket 80% of it. And they're like, oh, the profit margin, I don't know where this is coming from, but like, hey, the profit margin is like 60%, right? Which is cool. It's like average, right? But you're looking at the profit margins from people who are at 10K, people who are at 30K, that's 60%. But when you scale your company, there's no way it'll be a 60%,
Yeah.
you know? So we understood that game. So we were like, look, let's reinvest what we got in the business. But that also means that we need to make sure that we have food on the table too,
Yeah.
right? So we make sure that our personal lives are like set and ready to go so that we don't have to worry about it, right? That say, like someone we take like no pay, basically.
Yeah.
Someone, because I know my living situation is a lot better than my co-founder, Enoch. So someone I'll be like, look, I'll take no pay. You can take like a few grand to kind of like pay for what you got. Let's just reinvest into the business, play the wrong run, right?
Yeah.
Right now, just take like a big L and get around like 40-50% profit margin, scale it up like as quick as we could. And then we can enjoy that 40% like profit margin, like when we're at like 100K or something like that
Yeah.
later. And it paid off. We, in January, one thing, we had a call and we just look at each other and we were like, damn, like we pay ourselves like $0 for like almost the whole year. And now we just pay ourselves like the biggest paycheck we've ever seen.
Damn.
Like we were software engineers, and mind you, before that I was working at like at X, like Twitter, at Apple and Cisco and things like that. But the paycheck in January for ourselves was bigger than all of them I've ever seen. So I was like, this is like the this is what we wanted. This is what I wanted to see, and we finally did it. So that was like that's the story.
That's fucking cool. That's fucking cool. And I've heard that your software engineers make a lot of money. So
Yeah,
that's pretty dope.
then tax happened, and you're like, where did it all go?
Yeah. That's super dope. That's super cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, one thing, like last question, I don't want to hold you here for too long, but last question that I have is if anyone is at the stage where you were like a year ago, just starting out fairly early still, like not 100% sure, like you probably have this strategy or this idea in your head that, okay, this is how it should go, but you're not
Yeah.
100% sure if it's gonna work it out or like that,
Mm.
and what's gonna happen. If you could go back 1 year and give your old self like one piece of advice from what you learned, what
Mm.
would you tell him? What would be like that advice?
Ooh, quality advice. Nice. I mean, there's a lot, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I think one thing that I'm glad we stuck with, right? So this is not something new to us, was literally just like follow the plan, even
Mhm.
though it doesn't make sense to you at first, right?
Yeah.
So one thing we did is obviously like I listened to your advice where I didn't understand why, right?
Mm.
So you're gonna when you build your business, you're gonna go through different stages. Like the first stage to hit your 10K, you have to make sure that you're good at what you're doing, right? Because if you're not and you don't know how marketing works, you don't know how like psychology works, you don't know what the fuck does it mean by like pattern interruption. If I say like this language and you're like, what does that mean? Then there's no way you'll be able to scale the company. You gotta be good at what
Yeah.
you do first, right? Forget about other people's advices about operations, about hiring. Like, do that first, right? Once you get through that, you go to the next stage, right? Whether it could be ops, could be fulfillment, like build that out, and then you get to hiring, and then you get to like branding and like all the kind of stuff, right? The fun begins as you go, right? But before you unlock like the next level, like stay true to the plan even though the end goal seems very far away, don't try to skip it. Don't try to like, I'm gonna hire someone else because I don't want to do this. I'm gonna try to hire someone else and to kind of like handle it for me. That's the one way ticket to like killing your agency or
Yeah.
any kind of business, a matter of fact. If you don't know what you're doing, it doesn't matter at all. You know. So yeah, and I'm sure there's a lot of like I guess like business template, business goal, and things like that online or join like a coaching group or whatever it might be. Yeah, the advice is you might not see at first, but they give you that advice for that reason. If everyone was to say, do that, and you're like, why? I'm gonna do something else different, you're going in the wrong direction, right?
Yeah.
So just stick with the plan, just trust the process, and you get there.
Damn. That's
Yeah.
well said. Stick with the plan and trust the process. I think The reason why I really liked it is I think when I have been in a situation where I've wasted time or made bad decisions, it has always been because I've made a plan, I've had this process in mind, and then like halfway through, I've started doubting it and switched
Yeah.
up, and then suddenly mess it up and suddenly wasted 6 months or 4 months, and you
Yeah.
regret it later on. So that's pretty well said.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta work hard, right? Like that's the number one thing, right? And it's tough mentally when you work so hard, but you don't see like the result that you wanted to
Yeah.
see. But you don't know, like, hey, if I just do it, maybe like just one more month, just 2 more months, like you get that, right?
Yeah.
And then what people do is they would trying to shortcut it. They were like, you
Yeah.
know what, it doesn't work. Let me do something else,
Yeah.
right? So they think like, oh, let me try post on LinkedIn, get more customer, even though like I'm not getting good result, right? As a matter of fact, you're not getting good result. Like figure it out why you're not gonna get a result. Not get new customers. Sure, you can try it again. Like that's not how, you know what I mean. But yeah. So people are trying to like go for shortcut, but don't do that.
Yeah.
Do it one step at
Yeah.
a time.
And you guys are the perfect example that that's how it should be done. That's fucking
Yeah.
sick. Amazing.
Yeah.
But man, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for doing this. I hope anyone watching, I hope you paid attention because that was some good stuff. You know, these guys are crushing it. So I hope you paid attention and got some good lessons from it.
Yeah.
As always, if you're looking to scale your agency, go check out agentvelocity.io. You know, this is the logo. This is what you're gonna be looking for, and book a call and apply, whatever it might be. But thanks, Wesley, for being here. Thank you for an absolutely good, amazing call, and
Yeah. Of
I'll
course.
talk to everyone soon. Thanks for
Yeah.
watching. Bye.